Hello, healers and health seekers. It's me, Chota, healing with medical medium information for 3 years and 10 months now. That's almost 4 years. So exciting. And with me again, I have my friend Amber Stone. We did a part 1 of this video, and we just wanted to keep telling you stuff because we didn't cover some things. So we wanted to keep it going. So we're going to finish it up, maybe, and do a part 2. So my friend Amber, she's also been on this medical medium path for almost as long as me, I think. Maybe as long.
I think probably like similar-ish, but
Yeah.
my not till like November.
Okay. So I was June of 2016, you were November. So pretty close. And anyway, so we were talking about her healing journey. That video will be linked below, and you can watch part 1 of this video because I think it's really great. Her story is fantastic and very inspiring, and she's a very inspiring person. And now she's going to tell us some more about her healing journey and some of the more of the physical symptoms that she had too. So Amber, do you want to say anything, like a little bit about yourself? And then I feel like people should watch part 1, but go ahead, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, well, I'll just say that I'm Amber, and I've been healing for going on 4 years. And yeah, you should definitely go watch part 1 because there's I feel like it's the angels are guiding this, and I think that there's lots of good gems in what we're sharing. But yeah, basically I came from working with 2 naturopaths and trying to find answers and doing a bunch of research and just being let down every time to praying and finding medical medium. And I wanted to go into more of the physical symptoms of where I came from and where I'm at now and what it's been like, because healing is not linear. And I feel like that's so freaking important to talk about because people and including myself, I was like, okay, I will heal and I'll do the thing and then it'll be done and I'll be healed. And then I learned that healing takes time.
Yeah.
And it's ups and downs because it's just you've life and you can't, monitor every stressful event you're going to deal with, which can cause things to come back up and whatnot. So I just thought it would be cool to talk about.
Right. Or new exposures, or there's so many factors that can influence our journeys, new exposures, new toxins, new pathogens, all kinds of different stuff, huge stressful events, deaths or accidents or whatever. So there's always surprises along the way. I think a lot of people think that it's going to be yes, like you said, I'll heal and then happily ever after, and then no more sick ever again or no more symptoms ever again. And that's just kind of not necessarily how it works. I mean, yeah, I think there are a lot of people who probably can get most of their symptoms pretty much handled, but then who knows what's coming down the road in the future and what we'll be exposed to. So it's always good to keeping your immune system strong and keep things going. Anyway, so tell us more about your physical symptoms, because we didn't get very deep into that. There was just so much to talk about.
Yeah, it was really fun. And yeah, so I shared about my perioral dermatitis. That was the big thing for me. And I'll go into all the other little symptoms because the dermatitis, it's so frustrating. I know you understand because you've dealt with skin stuff too. And it's you cannot, it's you don't want to go out because your face is covered and people will look at you and ask you questions. And that was one of the most horrible things that I was dealing with, because I would be in work and I remember people would be like, why do you look like that? Why is your face so red and all this stuff? And my dermatitis was just spreading and I felt out of control and helpless with it because, it started here around the nose and then it would go onto the cheeks. I had welts under my eyes. And it was I had rashes come under my arms at one point. And it was just spreading and spreading and spreading. And I couldn't wear any makeup, which is what you want to do when you are dealing with skin stuff. Because you're let me cover this up so at least I can feel good at work or out in public. And I couldn't do that because when I would put makeup on, it would just explode all over my face. And so that was like a really big symptom. And I'm having a little bit of like a flare up right now, or it's not a flare up. It's actually, this is detox from infrared sauna and like stuff like that. But, you know, I had gotten my perioral dermatitis, I'll start with that symptom, like down pretty much completely. And I had clear skin for a while, like after healing on medical medium, and it was glorious. I was like, oh my gosh, like because you feel like so good and you go out in public and you're like, yay, my skin's clear. Like it's so exciting because it's so hard when you have skin conditions and like the itching and the peeling and the scratching and the flaking, and it's like maddening, and it hurts sometimes. And so that was like the main one. And last year, this is what I want to talk about with the linear thing, with it not being like linear, is I had a huge chemical exposure and a lot of trauma. And so my skin stuff did start coming back a little bit during that, but right now I can like it'll clear up and then it's detoxing, clear up, detoxing, like it did in the beginning when all that stuff was getting flushed out. So that's where I'm at with my skin. And I would say it's about 70% healed. Like I kind of goes back and forth depending, but like where I'm at now in a safe place and not being exposed to like horrible chemicals and like pesticides and all this other stuff that comes with apartment living. So that's like a big symptom, and that's been like miraculous because literally, like, I know that it takes time with dermatitis because it comes from so much toxicity and like poisons in the liver. It takes time for all that to get cleansed out. And it's like the liver lets a little bit go and like a little bit go. And, but yeah, I've had a lot of success with that. And there's like no answers for perioral dermatitis. Like that is a black hole on the internet. If you look into it, there's just no solutions other than these like gimmicky trend like type of things that just do absolutely nothing. And they say, oh, you know, it comes from makeup, so don't wear makeup, and then that doesn't do anything. It just it kind of helps, but not really. So yeah, that was like the main one. And then also IBS, that was like another really big one that I get like a little stressed out talking about these symptoms, but I had IBS, and it was basically Crohn's actually. Like I looked into symptoms, and it was more on the side of Crohn's than just standard IBS. And I had that my whole life. Like I was constantly going from severe constipation to diarrhea to like constipation, diarrhea, and like so severe bloating that like to a point where there was a time where it felt and seemed as if I was 7 months pregnant, and a nurse had taken a look at me and she really thought that I was 7 months, and she felt because it was so hard from the bloating, whatever's going on. And so I don't know, there's a lot of weird things with that, but yeah, I had really bad Crohn's, and like that's healed a lot during this process. That was a big one. And then there was all the little symptoms that I just like, I would wake up and I would be like spinning and like dizzy and like felt like I'm gonna pass out just from standing up. And like I had that my whole life, so I never thought that was something that I can heal. And then like tinnitus, like my ears would be ringing all the time. And you know, my dad used to always feel like, oh, you listen to your music too loud, and that's totally probably not helpful. But I had tinnitus, and I don't have ringing hardly ever unless I get exposed or I'm detoxing or something. So that was a really annoying one. And Anthony, the other day, he mentioned mystery hunger on his live, and I was like, oh my gosh, because that was a terrible one that I had that I totally, it's like, it's really true that if you're not like keeping track of what you're coming from as you're healing, we can so easily forget like all the little things. Yeah. And so mystery hunger, I used to eat and eat and eat and eat, and I would eat high fats because those were the most satiating foods, but I was always like hungry. Like it was like no matter what I would eat, I never felt full or satiated. And that healed like a couple years ago on the protocols. And that's been amazing to just be able to, because it's like, it's almost like you can be settled when you're not constantly like hungry and like and so yeah, that's another thing. And there's probably a lot like brain fog, my gosh, confusion, that's gotten so much better. And like I used to also get like twitchy in the eyes, like my eyes would just twitch all the time, and like my arm would spasm, and like I would get Charlie horses, and like my legs would like
Yeah.
cramp and spasm. I don't get any of that stuff anymore. And I was just like, who thinks of that? Like twitching, because you just get so used to it. And
Yeah. I had that too. I had like my muscles in my eyes would spasm, and um like it would just it was weird. It felt really weird. And like I would get the Charlie horses in my legs too, and in my feet. They would just lock up in certain ways, and it would be so excruciatingly painful. And I forgot about it for a while until somebody mentioned it, and I was like, oh, I used to get that. I remember. It's gone. It's so gone. It's so gone that I forgot that I had it. Like that's how gone it is.
gosh, yeah, it's like those are so painful. Like they used to wake me up at night. Like
Yes.
and I'm just like, oh, like you can't move because you're just your whole yeah, it's like you
Or even
lock.
breathe, because you're just like, if I move or breathe in any way, it's going to hurt more.
Oh my god,
Which just hurts so much. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. Oh,
for real. And also something that comes to mind too is I used to have really bad sleep paralysis and insomnia and like PTSD around my sleep. And that's all gotten like my PTSD, that took time because of different traumas, but I've been able to heal all of those things, which has been miraculous. And just being able to sleep at night is a really amazing thing.
it's huge. It is
Yeah.
huge. Yes.
And I also used to get like and I still get this very occasionally, but it's much less, like buzzing, like my nerves feel like they're buzzing.
Mm. Is it like a wired feeling, like when you have had too much caffeine, or kind of like an audible sound, or?
Well, that kind of feeling, like my anxiety, I'll talk about that in a second because that was brutal. Like that was horrible. But no, the buzzing, it feels almost like something is like moving inside. Like it feels like something's like buzzing. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like a nerve is like shaking or something, or twitching or spasming maybe, but it's like a buzz.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know about that, but and then my anxiety, I still have like bouts of it, but it is so much better. And my anxiety used to be so bad that like I would go to the grocery store and be like having a panic attack from just being around people and like being
Yeah.
around so much commotion. And that has, I did have like some of that come back with trauma last year. But again, that happens, symptoms come back up. But like right now, it's healing a lot again. And like I used to have like my chest would always feel contracted. That's like part of my anxiety and like the flippy stomach sometimes. And that's improved tremendously. And also, I used to be like severely depressed. And that's totally, I think my depression's like totally healed pretty much. Um, and so, yeah, that's like, I don't know, those are just some symptoms that I can think of that I've been able to heal with the information.
That's amazing. When my depression healed, I was stunned. I didn't think, I've had depression off and on since I was 14. I didn't think that's something you could heal ever. I just thought you live with it, you figure out coping tools, you figure out stuff to do about it, but it's just going to always be there. And it it would be off and on, but like with chronic illness, it got so bad. Like there were, it was almost pretty constant. And when I started doing medical medium information, it lifted pretty quickly after I started using the information and started implementing things. And I wasn't even doing things perfectly at first. I thought I didn't realize a couple things, but but
Same.
it lifted pretty quickly, like within a few months, I think. And I was like, how is this possible? I didn't think, it's almost like just this cloud of darkness always hanging over you. At least
Mhm.
that's how it felt to me. Like if you picture somebody with just sort of like a black cloud just kind of hanging over them all the time. And that's how I felt. Like I was just sort of shrouded in it all the time. And so when it started to lift, I was like, what? I feel sort of like a normal person mentally. Like I was like, I feel like sort of positive. Like I just started to naturally feel sort of positive and uplifted and better about things and be able to view my circumstances without that negative lens. And it was just such an amazing experience because I thought I just would always have to live with depression. It never even occur to me when starting the information that that could be something that healed. I just didn't even think about it. Like it blew my mind. And I haven't, it's not that I never have any thoughts that are dark or down or anything like that, but they go as quickly as they come now. If I have them, it won't even last like an entire day. It won't take over my life and just be who I am for, which it used to be. It just used to be something I lived with, but now it's just not. Oh my gosh,
Same.
what a gift.
I feel similarly because depression and anxiety, it's like you get taught that that's more emotional. Like they don't teach you there's a physical cause to anxiety or depression. They teach you, oh, go take a deep breath and meditate. And those things are helpful for sure. Like with anxiety, before I'd go into work, I would meditate and it helped me cope with going into a restaurant. Like it definitely helped, but it's
Yeah,
like that's kind of where the focus is with those with because it's so much of it, it's like it is emotional, but it has a physical root. And
right.
yeah, so it's amazing when those things lift and you're like, whoa, it's like, yeah, it's like a different life.
It really is. It really
Because
is like taking
um
off that shroud. It's like, yeah, you just see things differently and feel things differently. And it's like, oh, it really is like there's this filter, this that sort of covers everything up that hides. And and now when I'll have those thoughts, if I do ever kind of go into it for a second or whatever, it's like the difference is there's such a contrast. It's so palpable that I'm just like, oh, that. And then I have new tools for coping with that. Like I ask the angels to help clear whatever's going on, or um, I can change my venue or whatever. But when I was depressed, like when I was living with depression all the time, you could have offered me a million different tools and I wouldn't have been capable of enacting any of them or using any of them because it was just like I was immobilized by the depression. I couldn't. And now when that, if anything does come up like that, or I have a thought or, that kind of takes me down for a second, I just can come out of it so much faster because I don't get weighed down by it and it doesn't like suck me under. And if I feel like it starts to, I can recognize it because it is such a contrast from how I live every day that I'll like text somebody. I'll text you or I'll text another friend and be like, hey, I'm getting swirly. Start a spiral. And or something. I can do something, go for a walk or go outside or just change my venue or something, which are all things that, there's all these tools we have that people will say to a depressed person, well, you just need to do this, you just need to do this. But it's like what people don't realize who haven't experienced depression is that when you're depressed, you can't just do that. Like you can't just get up and go for a walk or change your venue or even reach out to a friend sometimes. Like that's not even possible sometimes. Like it really does kind of immobilize you from being able to take an action on your own behalf. And oh, I'm so great. I'm really grateful to be out from under that and to not be in that experience anymore. And to know that even if I do have a day or a couple hours where something's not feeling great, like it's going to pass. It always will pass. And I'll be able to come out of it again. Like, holy heck, what a relief.
Seriously. And yeah, like you can tell someone who's depressed, like, just think positive or something, but
Yeah.
it's when you've got a core of heavy metals that are oxidizing in your brain and moving around and causing all of this, it's like you got to get those out so that you can bounce back quicker and it's not consuming you anymore.
Yeah.
That's my experience with anxiety too. It's like both of those things, it's so much of the metals and also the viral neurotoxins inflaming the nerves. But I noticed, like, when I would go through severe trauma, I think that would oxidize the metals. And then it was like, that's when everything like that, like the anxiety, depression, all the neurological stuff would go crazy.
Yeah,
But then,
because the adrenaline is corrosive and it makes that stuff oxidize faster.
and it heats up the brain and it
Yeah.
heats up the cells. Yeah. So it's just like, praise God that we can have like function and not be like just freaking under uh that weight, that burden of just
Yeah.
like not even like, and it makes you not able to really connect with people also because
Yeah.
it's so strong. It's like it's very isolating.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Or even with yourself sometimes. It's just, yeah, it's like you can't even connect with who you really are or remember or any of it. It's just, did you ever think that you would be able to heal from that? Did you ever even think that was possible?
I didn't even think about it. Like I
Yeah,
was just
me
I was
neither.
so used to it, and I just noticed it started getting a little bit better and a little bit better, but like, no, I just thought that that was something that was like part of my life. And also for me, even after I got out of a situation that was really toxic emotionally and stuff, it was still there, which told me that like it wasn't even just the situational type of thing. Like it was like, and so yeah, that's I didn't expect for that to heal, and that's been a big blessing for sure. And the anxiety, big time, because
Yeah.
that was just, yeah, anxiety is like it's like you freeze in your tracks and you can't breathe. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I used to not be able to like I would be just terrified of everything. I couldn't make phone calls. I didn't feel safe to leave my house because of I would react to everything outside my house. So I just didn't, I became, I think, basically agoraphobic. Like I was afraid to ever leave my house, but I also couldn't make a phone call from inside my house or answer the phone or um, anything, anything. And it got to the point where my husband knew how completely debilitated I was by just anything. And so I would be like, it's like I could only interact with him, and he was my buffer between me and the world because I couldn't cope with anything else. And I would just, so then he had to take that on too, of like, if a phone call needed to be made or answered, he had to do it, even for an appointment or anything. Or I couldn't even talk to friends. When we were traveling, I still had a lot of anxiety and I couldn't even talk to friends. There were people I had been friends with online for a long time. And as we traveled, I was going through the cities that some of them lived in. I would have loved to have met them and seen them, and I couldn't do it. I had to tell people at times, I want to see you, but I have such debilitating anxiety that I can't do it. I can't because it's like, new unknown situation, scary. I don't know why. Like I think of it now and I'm like, I just remember what it was like. I remember going through cities and not being able to connect with people because the anxiety was too high at that point. Like it was getting better. I could reach out to them and even tell them we were coming through the city and almost make plans, which was a huge improvement from before. It really was. But I couldn't enact the plan. I couldn't actually do it, like go somewhere and see anybody. So went through all these cities where I, it's almost like waving as we pass by because I couldn't, oh, we're going to be there for 2 weeks, but I somehow cannot manage to see you. And luckily people understand anxiety. And most of the people that I did talk to, like they understood, they got it, and they didn't hold it against me. At least it didn't seem like they did, but it's like all that stuff I've missed out on, but eventually, I don't have that. Like, it's not that I never have anxiety, because anxiety I still get it. It's more situational now though, rather than always. Like before I just couldn't, everything was no, and it would be just so debilitating and paralyzing. But now it's a little, if I do get it, it's more situational.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think like, I don't know, anxiety and stuff, it takes time. This is from such high loads of heavy metals. And like, I don't know, there's this idea when you're healing that, and I still like, sometimes I feel like I've fallen into this where I'm like, okay, once it's healed, it's gone forever. But really, it's like you'll get better and better and better with time. And like, that's how you know you're healing. It's not like, boom, everything's fixed. And so I don't know, I feel like with anxiety, like it's just a miracle to not be living in it 24/7. And like,
Yes.
that's an incredible breakthrough, because I still experience it. Like, even when I realize this with you, when I have the heavy metal detox smoothie, because of the past year of not being consistent with that, because I started reacting to everything because of like, just all the chemical exposures. It was like normal foods that I could handle became really intense, and I had to kind of like cut things back, and all this adrenaline was making me hypersensitive and stuff. And so now when I have the heavy metal detox smoothie, sometimes I'll have a moment of like chest tightness, but it passes really quickly. But that chest tightness and that like anxiety used to be there all the time. And
now that and then also that it's going to pass too, right? So you have that like, okay, this is just for a second. And it doesn't, like before, what I'm pointing to is like before finding the medical medium information, whenever I would have a symptom, if I would have like with my mast cell activation disorder, for example, and I'd get an exposure to something and I'd have a flare, I never knew how long that symptom was going to take me down for. It could be weeks, it could be months, it could be days, it could be, I don't know, it could be hours, but it was almost never hours. It was usually much longer than that. So it became like that would produce anxiety. That would terrify me, because it's like, well, what's this? I never knew what was going to happen or if it was going to pass, because I didn't really know what was causing it ultimately, or how to stop it, or, when it was going to end up in anaphylaxis again, and when I was going to be in the emergency room. Like all of these things, it would spiral, because I never knew. Now I understand what causes what, and why. If I do have a reaction to something, I understand why. I know what's going on in my body. I know it's going to pass. I know that my resilience has gotten so much faster and so much better and so much stronger. So I don't get that fear anymore if I have a symptom. If I have a symptom, I go, oh, okay, what's going on here? I might get curious, and I think about what could have caused this. Am I detoxing? Is it a flare? What's going on? And I can just watch it, but it doesn't scare me anymore. I just don't get afraid. It's like there's that level of peace where you're like, okay, tightness in my chest, but I know it's going to pass. It always passes, right?
right.
So it doesn't, I'm guessing it probably doesn't bring you into a panic anymore. So you don't think, tightness in my chest, I need to never have this again. Right?
Right. Yeah, and what you said about having like knowing the why, like what's going on, and having that, like understanding the cause of stuff, that in and of itself takes the edge off of the anxiety so much. Like, because you're not panicking like, okay, what do I need to do? Like trying to figure out all these answers. We have the answers now. So it's like, okay, if I experience this, I bring this in. and it helps it along. Goodbye. And
Yeah.
then it's like, it's not this whole ordeal like it was before the medical medium information.
Yeah. It's such an incredible feeling of peace and relief to just to have that and to be feeling solid in that, and to know that, if I experience something, I know what to bring in to help it, or I have the reference books to look it up to figure out what to bring in to help it.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, I'm so excited for his new book.
I know it's in just a few days. What is today? Well, I don't know what day this video will post, but we're filming it on the 16th. So the book's supposed to be out the 21st, and hopefully it'll be in our hands the 21st.
It's like each book just takes you deeper into the healing, like deeper and deeper.
Yes.
Also, maybe we could talk about real quick how there's not a plateau with the information, like how there's always room to keep healing and to bring, like to lower the fats, to up the heavy metal detox ingredients, and of course, doing it in a way, if you have a sensitive nervous system, in a gentle way, that's like not, everything all at once or upping, like crazy. But I think that's so important to know too about this information. It's like, you're never stuck. Like you're constantly moving forward. You can bring in more elevated biotics. You can grow sprouts and take it deeper. You can like do the liver rescue cleanse, like you're talking about, doing that once a month. There's so many different ways to
Right. You can mono meal, you can up your supplement dosages, you can focus on certain foods for certain periods of time or extended periods of time. There's always something you can do, and there's no one right way to do it. Like there's no like I've heard people say sometimes, when I know that they haven't read it's like, okay, it's understandable, because people think like, oh, everybody's doing the same thing, that this is all like one size fits all. It's so not. It's so not. Everybody's doing completely different things. Yes, there are some commonalities. We keep the same foods out and stuff like that, but the amounts of what we're eating and how we eat, and there's so many things that are different between each individual person, and it's based on individual need and what you can do at the time. And there's always different like things and ways you can go with it, less cooked and more cooked, and all raw, and whatever. Like there's just a little more fat, a little less fat, always a little less fat.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not, I think there is a misconception when you haven't really thoroughly read the books and like read the information and the podcast. I mean, there's so much information now too, like with all the live streams and like, oh, like I want to go back and like study all of it, but now I'm like, there's so much.
Right. Exactly. I think about that too. I'm like, oh, I want to rewatch the lives the way I re-listen to all the podcasts and read the books and stuff. And I'm like, there's so many now. Like, where do I?
Yeah.
One day I'll just binge watch a bunch of lives like I do with TV shows or something.
Seriously, I know there's so much. But yeah, so it's good for people to just have that awareness that like it is not one set. That's why you said not to say protocol, because it's not a one protocol. It's like a lifestyle that's alive. It's living. It's like based on what we need in each individual. And I think there's like maybe some confusion sometimes around that with the information.
I also think personally, this is my personal recommendation, is don't just read the book once, any of the whatever books you have. Like, to me, there's always more. Every single time I go back to a radio show, I go back to one of the books, I go back to the information, I get something new and deeper out of it. So even though it might not be like, this is totally new to me, it might deepen my understanding of it. So I love that I can refer back to them over and over again, and that he keeps, with each new book, it's like, yes, it has some of the same information in it because it's consistent, just in case this is the first book you're reading. You want to have certain information repeated so that you don't have to go read all of them to get to that point. But also there's always something new in every book, and it always takes it to the next level and takes it deeper. And that's why we all get so excited about each new book that comes out, even though we already have our healing routines in place. It's like, oh, this is, we're going to learn more now. To me, I just get so excited because I'm like, new information. We're going to learn more stuff. There's going to be something that he hasn't said before, or that I didn't, fully take in before, or whatever. And that's why I love going back to, I just consumed the Liver Rescue book for the third time. The
Wow.
first time I read it all the way through.
That is so impressive.
Second, well, it's hard. It's a big, dense book, and this next one's even more big and dense. But the second time, I went through chapter by chapter in a study group. So we would read a couple chapters, and then we would discuss it, and I would take notes. So basically, and when I took notes on the book, I basically almost wrote everything in each chapter, because I was like, well, this is all important. So that was really fun. And then this third time, I listened to the audiobook. And I love it because I'm consuming it a different way each time. I feel like it sinks into different parts of my brain each time. Man, and listening to all those chapters again, especially at the back with the meditations and the peace be with you, that last chapter, basically cried my way through that. It's so, just goes right into my heart. But oh my gosh, so good. So good.
You inspire me, because it really is like, it's so important that we keep going back and like reading the books, because every time, and I experience this with like my spiritual text too, it's like every time you go back and read something, it's attuned. It's almost like the words, because they're alive, like the living word, they're attuned to where you're at exactly in that moment.
Yes.
So you're going to read exactly what you need in that moment. That could be totally different from what you read years ago.
Exactly.
Powerful, yes. Information.
It's incredible.
It just goes right to your soul, and it's like
I love it. And then he just keeps adding. He keeps adding more to the collection and more to the books, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is great. I love it. I'm so excited every time a book comes out.
Me too. And this time he said he's going to talk about some emotional, spiritual stuff, and I'm really excited for that.
Yes, those are my favorite parts. It's great because I feel like once we get, it is almost time for his live, so we're going to wrap this up in a minute, but I feel like once we get to a certain place in our healing where we have healed a lot of the physical stuff, we become more functional. Mm-hmm. It kind of becomes less about the body and more about like the spirit and the soul. And it's not that the body isn't important or whatever. Of course, we're still maintaining and doing everything, but it becomes less of a focus because it doesn't have to be as much of a focus. And so it's like we can really go that next level. And I don't know if I'm explaining myself like the way I mean to be, but yeah.
When you're suffering and you have so many symptoms and like you are miserable because of that, you can barely get out of bed, you can barely function, go to the store and just do your basic needs. All your focus is on the body, because it
has to be. Yeah.
All your symptoms nonstop. And like, as those symptoms start lifting, it opens up spaciousness for us to focus on the other areas, because we're not weighed down with all the symptoms anymore.
Exactly.
We can actually he shared that in the live recently too, like about that person that was going to the spiritual retreats, and like everyone's suffering, and because the physical stuff has to be addressed first, or like, you can meditate, but if you're meditating and you're anxiety ridden from heavy metals, or you're sitting in your depression from heavy metals, or you're having heart palpitation. That's another symptom I should have talked about. But you've got all these symptoms going on. It's like you're consumed by that in your meditation. So it's hard to connect it. And not that you can't, but it really opens up that that space for us to move into different realms with our healing versus us having it to be all about the body. But it's also cool because the body and like the liver, that's like spiritual in and of itself. Like the liver has a soul, the reproductive system has a soul. And
Exactly. It's so amazing realizing how that's the thing that makes so much more sense to me too than any of the other modalities out there, is the acknowledgement that we are a whole system. We are not all of these little disconnected pieces, like it's not like the soul goes over there and the mind goes over there and the body is way over there. And, and then it's like all the little parts of our body not connected, like, which is the way the conventional medical model works. It's like, no, we are a whole being. So as you start to heal one area, one system, it starts to heal all the systems. And it's just like, yeah, that's what has always made sense to me. The other thing never did make sense, and I couldn't ever really get my head around it, but it's how everything operated. So it's like, what else what else is there? There's this medical medium information. And this is like, yes, we are a whole system, we're a whole being, and all of the parts are connected and they're all affected by each other. So if one part is broken, it's going to break other parts. And anyway, that was huge for me to just have that acknowledgement. There was so much in the medical medium information that's just like, yes, 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 I knew this. But it's like, I knew it, but nobody else would acknowledge it. So was I crazy? But now somebody's acknowledging it. And so it's like, yes, it is real. And you get that validation. You get that validation of like things that you sort of suspected and felt, but nobody was giving voice to. And he's there saying, yeah, you were right.
It really helps us hone in our intuition, like when we get validation too. Because before his books, I mean, it's all just like this like concept over here or something. And he grounds it into the earth and into our bodies. And we can't bypass the body to, like, so many people want to just totally forget the body and do all the spiritual things. And the most powerful thing that we can do is go deeply into the body and deeply heal the body, and like the roots of the tree going down into the earth and then going up to the light, versus just going to the light and then being totally like disconnected from the physical like roots.
Right. That's a great analogy, because it's like having a tree without roots. So you're just going to fall over if you don't have that solid rooted foundation to hold you up when you're.
Because there's going to be storms on it.
Exactly. That's perfect. Okay, I hate to do this. But his live is going to start. So I'm going to wrap this up. Every time we do another, like, I just feel like, oh, we could just, oops, sorry. See, that's the alarm saying the live is going to start. Every time we do this, I'm like, we could talk for another hour. So we'll have to do this again.
Yeah, definitely.
Dive deeper into certain subjects. But thank you, Amber, so much again for continuing this wonderful interview and sharing your beautiful, inspiring story. Hopefully it will reach everyone it needs to reach and help encourage others to take the leap, or just know that, again, not alone on this healing journey, and it connects you with some amazing people. So
yes. If you have found the medical medium information, keep your faith alive and like know that you're on the right path, and that you will keep healing, and that it's not linear. There's ups and downs and bumps and turns, and it's all moving upward and forward. And I hope that this blesses people and can bring people hope and encouragement and just deepen their faith, because this is like it's the golden ticket.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, thank you for coming on. I love
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. I love you too. And I love you too, my healers and health seekers. Thank you so much for watching. Give a thumbs up if you like this video. And if you have any questions for me and Amber for us to answer in future videos, leave it in the comments and we will see what we can do about getting to those questions. Stay curious, my healers and health seekers. I love you and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.